Got you updated. This is Radio Imanzi News in English.
You are tuned to Radio Imanzi, broadcasting from Kigali. Here is the news in English, brought to you by Fiona Umuganwa. The headlines. The plenary sitting of the Chamber of Deputies has approved the state finance bill. Activists have renewed the calls to bring to Rwanda physical archives of the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda. Sudan has pledged to de-escalate tensions with Addis Ababa over the killing of 87 soldiers and a civilian in Ethiopia whose military it had accused of committing the atrocities. Welcome back. News in detail. The plenary sitting of the Chamber of Deputies has approved the state finance bill in which the budget envelope for the fiscal year 2022-2023, which will start on July 1st, is over 4.6 trillion Rwandan francs. The policies and strategies over the 2022-2023 national budget are largely guided by the National Strategy for Transformation 1 program. The government will continue to consolidate the public finances to reduce fiscal deficits and stabilize debt levels while responding to remaining scars from COVID-19 and the negative impact the war in Ukraine is having on the recovery of the economy and on the household's income and spending. The theme for the 2022-2023 budget is accelerating economic recovery and enhancing productive sectors for improved livelihood. According to the Minister of Finance and Economic Planning, this theme was chosen by all East African Community finance ministers to demonstrate total commitment to economic recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic outbreak, as well as safeguarding lives, jobs, businesses, and industrial recovery. Following the appointment of the new president of the International Residual Mechanism for Criminal Tribunals, activists have renewed the calls to bring to Rwanda physical archives of the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda. Manzi Prince with this report.
The UN Secretary General appointed Judge Graciela Agati Santana of Uruguay as the new president of the mechanism, representing Calmer Agres, who has led the court since 2019. The International Residual Mechanism for Criminal Tribunal took over the work of International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, which was set up by the UN Security Council to try masterminds of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. Although the Security Council has suggested deducting and digitalizing the archives to make them accessible by everyone, including those in Rwanda, calls remain to have the physical achievement transferred to Rwanda. Currently, the archives are kept at a facility located in Arusha near the former headquarters of ICTR. Dabirola Kalinda, an academic specializing in international criminal justice and human rights, says that although the Security Council Council opted for digitalization, it is not too late to repatriate the physical archive to Rwanda, saying that there are many reasons to back this push. Kalinda noted that Rwanda's history as well as its records play a big part in the reconciliation, and the ICTR archives are part of the historical records, and it is why they are needed here. Several experts share the position that the archives are part of Rwanda's history and would be more resourceful if they were in Rwanda. Speaking at a recent online symposium held under the theme, The Forgotten Tribunal, the lessons and legacy of the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, the lead prosecutor in the trial of Theoneste Bagosora and his co-accused Baba Marveni expressed a disappointment that the archives are not in Rwanda. She believes they would give a survivor some closure if they get to know how their family members ended up. The first official spokesperson of the International Criminal Court in The Hague, Ernest Sagaga, who is currently the head of Human Rights and Safety Department of the International Federation of Journalists, said that if the ICTR wants to leave any legacy, the international community should fund the establishment of the archive in Rwanda.
Rwanda Equip has pledged to contribute tablets in 800 schools across the country before 2023 to promote smart learning. Manzi Prince has this report.
Rwanda Equip is a local tech program that aims at transforming the country's basic education system into a global competition sector. This comes after the Minister of Education called upon the private sector to contribute to extending ICT services to students for the collective goal of having a digitally able young generation. The pledge was made during the EdTech education program sponsored by MasterCard Foundation Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning in ICT and Rwanda ICT Chamber. The program was aired with the theme Harnessing the Power of Technology to Create a Resilient Education Systems. It also included discussing key messages including internet connectivity in schools and ICT training. Clement Ujeneza, Managing Director of Rwanda Equip, said the tablets help teachers to prepare lessons quickly, which spares teachers time for students. Tablets also facilitate head teachers to monitor teachers on how they deliver lessons and the rate of completing syllabus on time. The program started with 100 schools in the first month of this year. Another 150 schools will also benefit in September, and the objective is to cover an estimate 800 schools before September 2023. According to Uwajeneza, so far Rwanda Equip works with 3,000 teachers, while 120,000 students are benefiting from supply textbooks that are used during learning. Ujeneza pointed out that there are many other companies working to promote smart learning and ICT, hence giving optimism on advancing ICT in schools. Christian Muhirwa from Broadband Systems Corporation also said that this company has already connected 800 schools to fiber optic internet, a condition that has promoted smart learning across the country.
Now moving on ahead, the Rwanda Investigation Bureau has confirmed submission to the National Public Prosecution Authority the case of Rwanda's Football Federation officials. The three suspects, Felix Nzeyimana, former head of competitions at Ferwafa, referee Javan Tuyisenge, and Henry Muhire, former Secretary General of Ferwafa, are suspected of committing crimes of forgery and falsification. According to the investigation body, all three are charged with three counts of alleged forgery, falsification, and use of forged documents in an attempt to disqualify Rwamagana FC from the Second Division League knockout stage.
Some items of international news on Radio Imanzi.
The UN Security Council is set to convene for a briefing on the situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The briefing comes about a week after the third conclave on DRC by East African Community Heads of State hosted on June 20th by President Uhuru Kenyatta in Nairobi. During the meeting, 6 regional leaders deliberated on the security situation in eastern DRC and emphasized that all offensive language, hate speech, threats of genocide and other politically inciting language proliferated in the DRC must cease. The Security Council brief will be provided by the Special Representative of the Secretary General and Head of the UN Organization Stabilization Mission in DRC. Sudan has pledged to de-escalate tensions with Addis Ababa over the killing of its 7 soldiers and a civilian in Ethiopia whose military it had accused of committing the atrocity. 2 days earlier, Khartoum had vowed to provide an adequate response. Reports indicate that Sudan shelled an area near the disputed border region since Monday. Now the head of Sudan's Sovereignty Council, Lieutenant General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, made a promise to calm the situation hours after the reported escalation in which its military is said to have fired heavy artillery into Ethiopia. The European Union has cautioned the two sides not to go to war. In a meeting between the European Union's envoy for the Horn of Africa, Annette Weber, Lieutenant General al-Burhan affirmed his country's keenness on normal and balanced relations with neighboring Ethiopia. 2 senior Libyan officials have begun talks on constitutional arrangements for elections in the latest UN effort to bridge a gap between the country's rivals. The meeting of Aguila Saleh, the influential parliament speaker, and Khaled al-Meshri, head of the Tripoli-based government's Supreme Council of State, has taken place at the UN headquarters in Geneva. According to the United Nations, the talks will focus on a draft constitutional framework for elections after Libya's rival factions failed to reach an agreement in their last round of talks in the Egyptian capital of Cairo. South Africans are experiencing in the middle of winter the country's most drastic outages since 2019. The state-owned electricity utility Eskom will implement stage 6 of load shedding between 4 and 10 p.m. today. Stage 6 means that power cuts could be increased to 6,000 megawatts. South Africans expect to endure on rotational basis multiple cuts a day, each lasting between 2 and 4 hours as they try to use electricity sparingly. Sweeping power outages are said to continue in South Africa as the power company said that there was a high level of absenteeism among its workforce due to a strike, and it could take weeks to clear a backlog of routine maintenance work. Music star R. Kelly is to face a trial on charges of child pornography and obstruction of justice. R. Kelly's musical accomplishments have been accompanied by a long history of allegations that he sexually abused women and children. Now the R&B singer could be put away behind bars for a quarter century or more when he is sentenced today in a federal courtroom in New York City. A jury found R. Kelly guilty in September of sex trafficking charges. While R. Kelly has vehemently denied the allegations, his accusers testified in detail that he subjected them to perverse and sadistic whims when they were underage.
Economic news is a regular feature on Radio Imanzi.
Now the Rwanda Stock Exchange Market Report. Today's trading session recorded a total turnover of 4,463,760 4,463,760,300 Rwandan francs worth of bonds traded in 9 deals on the fixed income market, while the equities market remained quiet. Bank of Kigali closed the counter at 265, I&M Bank at 43 Rwandan francs, Bralirwa at 160 Rwandan francs, MTN Rwanda at 177, Simerwa at 120, Equity Bank at 440, Kenya Commercial Bank at 370, National Media Group at 1,200, Uchumi Supermarket at 104, and RH Buffalo closed the counter at 526 Rwandan francs as the market closed. Now the currency market review of today. The Kenyan shilling buying price was 8.6 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 8.7 Rwandan francs. Tanzanian shilling buying price was 0.43 and the selling price was 0.44. Ugandan shilling buying price was 0.26 and the selling price was 0.27. Burundian franc buying price was 0.49 and the selling price was 0.5. The US dollar buying price was 1,014 and the selling price was 1,034. The British pound buying price was 1,237 and the selling price was 1,262. The euro buying price was 1,065 and the selling price was 1,087 Rwandan francs. There you have it. Now we come to the end of tonight's edition.